Jeffrey Epstein was the biggest name, and he's dead.
We're live streaming it.
Oh,
that's a big joke.
I guess we're
Elwood.
all good here. I guess.
Just to
I
look
guess
to the
that's all
side
good. So,
to see his guest.
Let
This
us
is live
bring
stream.
on.
I've got
from
screenshots lined up to give a visual.
We've had her on the show numerous times to discuss this very subject. She is literally the first person I texted when I saw this verdict today.
She's the
please welcome to the show,
go-to
Whitney.
for...
Whitney, how are you?
Here we go.
Hi, I'm okay. I'm supposed to be on maternity leave.
She looks straightforward
but
for
I
most
wanted
of the part of this.
say a couple things, I guess, about what's happened here.
He likes to look over to her. He has to look to the side.
I predicted a different outcome. Sorry, I didn't really set up lighting.
They script that this is impromptu.
Thing. I literally was like texting you like, "Hey, dude, what are you free?" And you're like, "I'm feeding my kid." I'm like, okay,
so they're reading lines applied to them. They're like, "I was." She's laughing. I was because it was actually true and not just scripted.
I'm glad this verdict came in the sense that at least is some sort of justice for the victims. Is obviously was.
Well, I'm definitely.
She talked over him
because I was a lot more cynical and expected her to get off a lot lighter. But I think there's something, a couple things, weird things that may have.
He looks over
to
her. So you have the images set up for you guys, for you guys.
Poo-poo it, right? Because obviously
for this video,
I'm happy that it turned
out
this way.
He's
and not
trying to hold in his tongue.
What I had originally anticipated, right?
Some issues with his
but there's
mouth,
a couple
his
different
tongue.
reasons why I think it turned out this way.
You can tell she's reading because she talks like a robot.
As I mentioned, I'm supposed to.
As I mentioned before, as it was scripted. He's Graham's looking over at her. See, I'm going back and forth very quickly between their faces. I'm an Aspie. I'm able to
you had the prosecution come out
notice
with case. There were a lot of
little things. Like Aspies get distracted, so I use that to the advantage of it.
On the phone, but other people,
use a Chinese
philosophy, on Twitter and other commentators had noted that the prosecutors had left out some major things. They could have called a lot more
noticing
than they did.
Things.
Among other things, they ignored the
Graham
blackmail and
it's distracting me.
For obvious reasons, I think.
So I start to watch him. Why is he distracting me?
Is that after that,
and I noticed that
when they were
he's looking forward, he's looking at the teleprompter. When he looks to the side,
over 30
he's looking to see her. He can see her face.
For a lot of those witnesses,
and she can't see. Neither of them can see the face right now.
More than the number of witnesses
if I shut up and let her talk a little bit, but I don't have to shut up and let her talk because you can see her eyes. Going side to side
for several weeks.
She's reading.
Was going to probably last into.
And he's acting like he's listening. He's looking right at her as she speaks. She's acting like she's speaking to him.
After making that request,
and that's the basic
out of nowhere,
deception.
Basically, I think they lasted like 1 or 2, like 2 days or something. They only called 4 witnesses.
Her head's bobbing. No one bobs like that.
It's
in real life.
That's quite a switch, a very dramatic switch.
He's looking over at her right there.
Which makes me think, because they've been talking about this a lot if you read between the lines in the reports, that the attorneys and the judge, the prosecution and the defense and the judge and all of that have been
none of this matters. We don't have to
among themselves. On and off during the whole trial.
So deeply to these shows.
And that sort of
they're just overloading you with little tidbits that you can find out for yourself anyway.
People were accusing the trial of being
they're doing it to get to the controlling.
Did what they did and
the
made
narrative,
the
the simulation.
All the coverage.
They want to find out who thinks what. They supply what's thought.
James Comey and all of this stuff.
And then they identify
and
what
a lot of people calling the trial out
viewers.
Leaving out various things, not having
what shows are we clicking on?
Be involved.
Who do we watch?
I think it's really
because most people are not doing what I'm doing.
That they
I know that
they want to have.
She's clearly reading. So how much of this do I need to live?
So people stop pushing.
That this basic structure is. He's nodding as if he has to look to the side.
Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell.
He looks to the side right there.
What your thoughts are?
Well, no, I totally agree. I mean,
what
you
his
and I had
thoughts
a
are,
conversation about a
what
week or so
what
ago,
thoughts were
and I've
written
done several
down
videos
by
on it.
someone
I mean,
else. Is that
you
what
and
you
I talked
mean?
about it, and I covered it on my show. All of
So
these
Whitney
very,
Webb,
these very
she's the
peculiar
best
things,
of the
like
best
the Judge
because
Allison Nathan throws out
she
the,
doesn't feel the
you know,
need
all of this
to
evidence, this hard evidence, and we find out she's in
move her eyes away
the
from the
Skull and Bones sister
teleprompter.
organization worked with the John Kerry and Joe
So
Biden.
this is the
We
part
find
2.
out again, you know, James Comey's
Doing this in
daughter.
5-minute slots.
The prosecution only calls 4 eyewitnesses, where like in the Larry Nassar case, there was
He's speaking to the audience.
150 women that testified against Larry Nassar. And it's like, we could only
He looks
find
over
4.
to
I mean, Maria
Whitney.
Farmer, who you've interviewed, has been very vocal
So it
on
should be
Twitter
fairly
saying, why
clear
is only my sister? How come
what
I'm
I'm
not
arguing
being, you know,
right
why am I
here.
not being allowed to testify?
I'm
And
presenting. He's looking. He has to
Epstein
look to the
victims have said,
side to
why
see
have I not
her.
been able to testify? And
She
I feel like
is able to
and I was saying the same thing. And again, like I say, I'm happy. I'm so
maintain
happy to be wrong.
focus straight
I'm
ahead
so happy
on
to be
the
wrong. I don't want to be
teleprompter.
right.
She'll rarely
My question,
look
and
over
this is
Graham.
the thing
Like right
you
there,
and I
she
have talked
did.
about, but both together on our shows and separately.
You can see his
is
eyes
the
moving right
overall
there. I
theme.
think he's
anyone
looking
that really,
at
truly
a
follows
different.
Epstein,
There's
they
a
always want to kind of
teleprompter
seal
probably
it off,
on his
and I'm
desk.
wondering,
That white tablet.
that's what feels like is maybe starting to happen. And I said, if they do find her guilty, the media is going to put guilty, guilty, guilty all over the place. And then if the actual
media,
is like 18 months
what
in a country
about
club prison, that's going to be
living a life where
like
media is
Friday
just
night,
another
they're going to announce
word?
it, like 18 months in a work release, 10, 9,
Whiny man
8,
thinks
Happy
he's
New
funny.
Year. Like they're just going to go right into the and
Well, I'm a whiny man.
That guy.
So she's gonna just talk right over him.
There's nothing for
so
her
is it? It's
that's
my
the
time to
thing
talk,
you and I, many
Graham.
Epstein people like Jillian has to have.
He's looking over at
all
her.
of this physical evidence.
I don't know
That's
why
what
it breaks
did.
down like
They
that.
got
Like,
powerful
why did
people
she
on
talk
camera
over him? She
having
doesn't
sex with
see what
children
he
to use it as
reads.
leverage. So where,
Or
well, the question is,
maybe
does
she
Ghislaine
thought
have a monopoly on that evidence currently, or the people that support her and back
so
her?
you can
Did it
see
get
through her
spread
eyes that
around
she's reading.
after the FBI raid of the New York
There have to be other
facility
people
or
involved to write
apartment?
the scripts.
It seems like the answer to
to
that's actually
scroll
no,
them.
because of some
There
of the
needs to
testimony
be
given by
people
FBI
running
special
the
agents
teleprompters.
During the trial.
Because
But
there's
the
the
question
human
is
factor.
how far did that blackmail travel? Who has it now? And we have to keep in mind too that if you look at the case of her father,
Graham
Robert
Elwood
Maxwell,
faking that he's looking at her.
Various,
when he's looking just at like a
espionage
teleprompter.
activities.
That's why he looks like death
according
personified.
to his own family, and
That's
also
why he looks
a lot
so
of his
bitter.
biographers,
He's fake.
among them.
Is
that he
wouldn't
want
to be as popular as he seems to be. What's he got? 80,000 subscribers. He goes on big shows.
You know, and that tends
Whitney
to happen.
Webb's in distress because she's just reading, reading.
Exposés of intelligence operations.
She goes on Tim Dillon. Tim Dillon goes on Joe Rogan.
Sometimes they do.
Whitney Webb works with the Adam Green, the Ryan Christian guy.
The scandal itself.
Ryan Christian went on with Redneck Economics and Nanotalk. I can go on with the connections on and on.
At all.
And I did.
I have, said one of the when they killed Epstein in prison 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago.
This is the pure work of the shift that they're doing. He's looking over at her,
saying Epstein didn't kill himself.
Some of them want.
The billionaire sex
they weren't told. I don't think they were told to not look over.
They want this to go away. Oh, Epstein
she's talking over
himself. And they
or faking that she looked over to the. She's looking over a little bit, trying to.
On that CNN, they kept showing photos of just
she was looking over at him a little bit. It really doesn't matter what they're saying.
She looks like a housewife. That's how the
fake.
The
they're not
really,
in conversation. This is like Shane and Jamal. There's Graham Elwood overcompensating, shaking his head, doing scrunchy face.
Really like obnoxious takes. Yeah,
he's trying to salvage.
That you and I have shown on our show. None of the photos of her with Trump. At the Clinton's daughter's wedding.
Yeah,
it's just about 40 seconds in
but
this
if you
second.
notice,
she's
the running
totally talking
after,
over him.
Since post.
So I'm watching these. His tongue jutted out, it was so disgusting.
Was Jeffrey Epstein's
That's part
idea.
of his
He was
from
the
his
naughty
drug
boy,
use.
and now he's dead, and it's done.
The naughty
and
boy, the whiny man.
Challenged on their ties to Epstein, like
he got
Bill
triggered
Gates.
by what she said. That naughty boy.
His response was, "Well, he's dead.
He wishes he had a manly voice like mine."
He's dead. It's over.
Nah, just kidding.
And that's why
he does know I exist though, because I told him. I asked him about him being a fake comic in Afghanistan.
Because
turned out he was doing that crap
that
for a
essentially
long,
means no
long
one
time.
else, by avoiding that, no one else involved.
Maybe I can put that into a tune. I'll write a tune and it'll go
a
long, long time.
Justice, and that's obviously a huge problem. Better have Ghislaine face justice than nobody. Obviously, but for people that want this as a practice by intelligence agencies or just in general,
I'm watching this in real time.
You can't just stop and be like, "Oh, all right, Ghislaine's in prison and everything's fine."
I don't know how much
because this was obviously something
I can keep going.
That goes far beyond just her and Epstein.
His tongue, I can keep pointing stuff out. She's looked over at him a little bit.
One of the things too, it's the thing you got to pay attention to, especially in the Epstein case, and Maxwell, is what they don't.
She's having one of these days where she just doesn't want to be there.
They won't bring up the intelligence ties. They won't bring that up. They won't bring up last week.
He's in no man's land. He's looking at he's reading off the teleprompter.
Flight logs.
He keeps looking over at her because he thinks it's more natural. Fiorella's like that too. Fiorella wants.
Why is it even
lately, I noticed Fiorella doesn't want to look at Craig. She just wants to get through the shift.
With underage
That's probably where they're headed.
Properties where
the problem is, as long as they keep reading from teleprompters, it's noticeable. So they started this show. They faked that this was done between these two people. That these are independent journalists. She's reading something scripted. That's why I'm talking over her. Because it doesn't matter what she's saying. She's got no verified academic background. She's got nothing. Look at her face, and she's a drug addict. She's a drug addict who works for the U.S. military intelligence racket.
As I understand it, that's going to be in charge.
That means Joe Rogan's involved. Yes, Joe Rogan is probably a CIA asset. That's probably what he's referred to.
So it could be different.
Graham's bitter. He's staring at like a wall, which is a teleprompter. That's what that basically must feel like. He looked over at her and now he smiled a little bit. So he feels an emotional need to get a glimpse of her. She just did too. She had one of those too. They want to time those glances so they both can get in a wink wink, a mutual platonic wink wink. Like, I get your back. I get your back, buddy.
People, from what I understand, who don't watch the news ever.
Graham.
But watching the testimonies
so bitter.
of real victims.
Because he can't just get through the shift. Now he has to hold in that tongue. That tongue used to, his tongue used to always come out and go from side to side. Now he's keeping it under wraps. He's got that thing sealed shut. His mouth. So he's creating probably that TM, is it called TMJ? What's that thing where the mouth, the jaw? I had a little bit of that once. We got to be careful we don't get stressed out in the jaw part of the face. She's going CIA, blah, blah, blah. Who cares?
So they're making it all up. But wait,
the Predator class. What did I miss? Should I fear that I'm missing out on the phenomenon?
I think the jury might.
His tongue jutted out. Is he a reptile?
I also think, as I mentioned earlier on.
No, it's. I forget what the phrase is called, but it's part of the tardive dyskinesia classification. The tongue.
Several weeks of arguments, or at least a couple weeks of arguments, and then. That becomes just a couple.
And then I'll just my head will shift like a typewriter.
There's something.
Does she not look like a human typewriter? The way the old-fashioned ones, it's like ta-da-ta-ta-ta, typing away. And as she types, her face goes blah blah side to side.
About this trial and what it means more
broadly. I put in this laborious body analysis overkill
and concern about that with
ASPE presentation because it bugs the F out of me.
In the US,
how prevalent, how widespread,
you know, just a lot of
how visible this racket is, how powerful they are.
In U.S. politics, could they really have afforded to have let, you know, just
I was taught that we're not supposed to respect rat snitches.
In general has been really against Ghislaine. You know, maybe they were reading between the lines, and that might be why. And if you look at
the human typewriter is in full view. You can see she's creating lines in her forehead through grimacing. They all have that. I thought maybe Poinkinen had some type of na 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 na